After a car crash, I woke up as the ex-husband of the powerful female CEO in a trashy romance novel. Remembering the original guy's tragic fate, I wasted no time signing my name on the divorce papers. The CEO's face instantly darkened. "Frank Miller, are you absolutely sure about this?" My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively clutched my wallet. Are you kidding me? There was no way I was giving back a single cent of that astronomical settlement. After 3 days in a hospital bed, I finally accepted my new reality. I, Frank Miller, a regular college student, had been dropped into the body of the villain in some cliché-ridden CEO novel. I was the CEO's ex-husband, a guy who used his family's wealth and influence to raise hell. At the university's opening ceremony, the original Frank had fallen for the female lead, Diana Hayes, at first sight. He pursued her relentlessly, using every dirty trick in the book to force her into marrying him. Diana was your classic campus heroine, beautiful, brilliant, but from a poor family. With a deaf father and a mother suffering from kidney failure, she eventually gave in and married him to cover the medical bills. Over 5 years of marriage, Diana transformed from an unknown office clerk into a rising star in the business world. Meanwhile, our relationship deteriorated. Diana was slipping from my grasp, but the original Frank was too arrogant to notice, his audacity culminating in him pushing her first love down a flight of stairs, breaking the guy's leg. Diana, having reached her breaking point, demanded a divorce. That's right, when the car crash happened. She didn't bother visiting me in the hospital until the 3rd day, and when she did, she just tossed the divorce papers onto my bed. "Frank, are you done with your games?" Her voice was ice, her expression a mask of impatience and disgust. Even so, the moment I got a clear look at her face, my heart still did a little flip. I couldn't blame the original Frank for being obsessed. She was genuinely stunning. Then I glanced at the divorce agreement. When I saw the list of assets I was getting, my heart nearly stopped. Holy crap, I was rich. The original Frank's family, the Millers, had money, sure, but he was an arrogant screw-up with a younger brother who outshone him in every way. He was never going to inherit the family company. Diana, on the other hand, had built her own empire from scratch in just a few years, and her net worth was staggering. The settlement was going to be insane. All my good deeds in life had finally paid off with this windfall. I deserved this. After running the numbers in my head, I had to suppress a wave of pure joy. I kept my head down, silent for a long moment, terrified a grin would betray me. Then, I took a deep breath. "Fine, I'll sign." Diana froze. She clearly hadn't expected me to agree so easily. But I wasn't about to let this opportunity slip away. Before she could react, I scribbled my signature on the papers. She seemed to sense something was off, her brow furrowing. "You?" I turned my head away, affecting a tone of utter defeat. "I've thought it over, Diana. Let's just let each other go." The room was quiet for a long moment. Just as I was about to sink back into the pillows and mentally count my new fortune, I noticed Diana was still there, silently staring at the signed document. "Are you not leaving?" I asked, genuinely confused. Diana looked up at me. I offered a gentle reminder. Leo's leg is still healing, right? Shouldn't you be checking on him?" Her expression immediately turned to ice. A flicker of panic went through me. Was she having second thoughts about the settlement? But I'd already signed. It was a done deal. Besides, considering how gracefully I was handling this, she owed me every penny. Back in college, Diana had a first love, Leo Vance. Unlike the arrogant, domineering Frank, Leo was gentle, mature, and driven. He came from a single-parent home and grew up without much money, but he was a real go-getter, excelling at everything he did. In a way, he and Diana were cut from the same cloth. He was the only one who truly understood her, her soulmate. If it weren't for me, they would have gotten together, graduated, and built a happy life for themselves here in New York. Or rather the original Frank, had ruined all of it. In the novel, Frank was insanely jealous of Leo, constantly harassing him and picking fights, until he finally snapped and got physical. That was the last straw for Diana. She despised Frank from that moment on. It doesn't take a genius to figure out what happens to the villain who pisses off both main characters. My ending was supposed to be miserable, so my plan was simple: take the money and run. Diana finally stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I patted my chest in relief, muttering to myself, she's got quite a temper. But the thought of my impending wealth cheered me right back up. It's not every day you get a winning lottery ticket handed to you. Just then, my phone buzzed with an iMessage from Chloe Vanderbilt. "Heard Diana finally graced you with her presence today?" The message was dripping with sarcasm. Chloe was Frank's childhood friend, a spoiled, headstrong heiress whose main skills in life were partying and living it up. She couldn't stand Diana, and the feeling was mutual. They were total enemies. After I married Diana, our families started interacting more, and Chloe's grandfather, the old man Vanderbilt, would constantly compare her unfavorably to Diana, which only made Chloe hate her more. She always called me a lovesick fool and told me to get a grip. She was clearly just messaging to gloat. But did I care? Hell no. I was too busy planning my new life as a millionaire to waste time feeling sorry for myself. Yep, I replied, then snapped a picture of the signed divorce papers and sent it to her. And as of today, I'm a single man. You're buying me a celebratory dinner. A question mark popped up, followed by an immediate phone call. Are you insane? She shrieked into the phone. Geez, so harsh. As soon as I'm discharged, we're heading to City Hall to make it official. Luckily, the crash wasn't too bad, just a mild concussion. So, aren't you going to do something to celebrate? Chloe was quiet for a second, then she laughed. All right, Mr. Miller. What did you have in mind? I grinned. I hear you just opened a new club downtown. A week later, I was discharged, dressed to the nines in an expensive suit. Chloe stood there with her arms crossed, smirking. Dressed like you're going to the Met Gala just to leave a hospital? Have you lost your mind? I just clicked my tongue. You don't get it. Today is a very important day. Chloe rolled her eyes and turned to leave, only to come face to face with Diana. Diana's gaze flickered over Chloe, her eyes turning cold. Hey, you're here, I said, walking over to Diana with a smile. Where's the car? Diana's expression softened a fraction. In the garage. Let's go. Chloe was not about to be ignored. She tilted her head, narrowing her eyes at me. Frank Miller, you're not riding with me? I waved a hand dismissively. Sorry, I've got to go with Diana to City Hall to finalize the divorce. It's just more convenient to take her car. I then turned to the suddenly rigid Diana. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Chloe burst out laughing. She's right. That is a pressing matter. Don't let me hold you up. Diana's lips twisted into a sneer. Frank, you just can't wait to be rid of me, can you? Weren't you the one who wanted this divorce? What's with the passive-aggressive attitude? Honestly, I said, I just have plans tonight. I figured we could get this done quickly so I don't waste any more of your time. Diana was always busy. I could count on one hand the number of times she came home in a month. I knew it was because she couldn't stand the sight of me, and frankly, the feeling was mutual. We could finally go our separate ways and live our own lives. What could be better? With a cold expression, Diana turned and walked away. City Hall wasn't too crowded, and it wasn't long before our number was called. Just as we were about to go inside, Diana's phone started ringing. I caught a glimpse of the caller ID out of the corner of my eye. Leo Vance. Diana stepped aside to answer, and I could faintly hear her voice, soft and gentle in a way I'd never heard before. Yeah, I'm still out. Something came up. She had never, ever spoken to Frank like that. This marriage had been a disaster from the start. For 5 years, they were constantly at each other's throats. They could barely even eat a meal together in peace, let alone share a moment of tenderness. Are you two getting this done or not? The clerk called out impatiently. I shook my head, feeling a pang of pity for the original Frank. He really meant nothing to her. Diana, I called out, raising my voice slightly. Can we please just get my thing done first for once? Diana always put Leo first. The original Frank had fought and argued, but it never made a difference. The poor idiot actually thought he could compete with her first love. What a joke. And Diana should be on my side here. The sooner we finished, the sooner she could be with Leo without any strings attached. Diana's expression froze. She spoke into the phone. Have Dr. Peterson take a look first. I'll be there as soon as I can. 20 minutes later, I was holding a freshly printed divorce certificate, my eyes welling up with tears of joy. I got it. My massive settlement was secured. From this day forward, it was all going to be travel, parties, and good times. I was going to be a happy man. I turned to Diana with the utmost sincerity. Diana, thank you. And goodbye. Thanks for the cash, and I hope to never see you again. As I walked out, I immediately spotted Chloe. She was leaning against an obnoxiously flashy red Ferrari, impossible to miss. I practically skipped over to her. I was rich. It was time to spend some money. Suddenly, I heard Diana's strained voice from behind me. Frank. I turned back quickly. Something else. Her lips were pressed into a thin line, her expression unreadable. The old Frank would have seen her distress and demanded to know what was wrong, but I couldn't be bothered to play that part anymore. If that's all, I'm leaving, I said, picking up my pace. For a side character like me, the key to survival was staying far away from the main couple. As Chloe's Ferrari pulled away, I took one last look in the rearview mirror. Diana was still standing there, looking strangely alone amidst the bustling crowd. Well, she was finally free of her troublemaker husband, right? She must be relieved. CcWei glanced over at me. Having second thoughts? I grinned, my mood instantly lifting. So, about those cute girls at your new club, you saved some for me, right? CcWei was speechless. I can't believe I wasted my time worrying about you. I actually thought you were heartbroken over her. But look at you. You're practically glowing. Was it really that obvious? I flipped down the vanity mirror to check. Frank Miller was 28, a good 10 years older than I was. But at least the face was handsome. And more importantly, it was rich. I thought for a second and offered an explanation. She never loved me. So I decided to stop loving her. At a red light, CcWei turned and studied me for a long moment. It was starting to make my skin crawl when she finally spoke, her tone unreadable. You know, since the accident, you seem like a completely different person. My heart skipped a beat. I stayed quiet for a second, then just shrugged. I guess a near-death experience changes your perspective on things. CcWei seemed to consider that for a moment. Then a smile spread across her face. I guess it does. All right then, tonight's on me. 2 hours later, CcWei was regretting her offer. Haven't you had enough? She asked, her face grim. She wasn't talking about the drinks, but the parade of beautiful girls I'd been chatting up. I raised my glass to her. Come on, have a drink with me. CcWei just stared. I patted her on the shoulder and gestured to the girls surrounding our table. Look at them. They're all sweet and gorgeous. Any one of them is better than my ex-wife, don't you think? Seriously, the original Frank was an idiot. With his money and looks, he could have had anyone. Why get so hung up on one person? CcWei snorted. So you finally regained your sight? A slender girl came over to pour me a drink, her voice sweet. Sir, would you like to try this? Absolutely, I said, reaching for the glass. But CcWei snatched it out of my hand. Don't mix your liquor. You just got out of the hospital, and I have no intention of calling an ambulance for you tonight. She shot the girl a look, and the poor thing went pale, immediately bowing her head. I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't realize. I waved it off. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm in a great mood today. Then I shot a teasing look at CcWei. A bit of a double standard, don't you think? You seem perfectly happy when one of your boy toys is pouring you drinks. But I'm not allowed to have any fun. CcWei laughed, a mix of amusement and annoyance. Is that even comparable? Why wouldn't it be? I was a newly minted millionaire. I could do whatever I wanted. Then her expression turned serious. By the way, have you told your parents yet? I froze. Oh crap, I'd completely forgotten about them. Before I could even form a response, CcWei gave me a look that said she knew everything. I knew it. You're too scared to tell them. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It was that I was afraid to. The original Frank didn't have a great relationship with his family. His parents were strict, old-fashioned, and openly favored his younger brother. He was the rebellious one, and he'd had a massive falling out with them when he insisted on marrying Diana. But once Diana's company took off, their attitude did a complete 180, and they started blaming Frank for all their marital problems. So yeah, life as the villainous side character hadn't been a walk in the park. But still, the divorce is final, I said. What's the worst they can do? The next few weeks were even better than I'd imagined. I had the housekeeper pack up all of Diana's belongings and have them couriered to her. The mansion had been a wedding gift from Frank's parents, but Diana had never liked staying here. I guess every corner of the place just reminded her of the humiliation of being married to Frank. At first, she practically lived at her office, and once her business took off, she bought a condo nearby. The original Frank had gone there once and, of course, ran right into Leo Vance. Talk about awkward. Leo claimed he was just ducking in to get out of the rain, but you can imagine how well that went over with Frank's explosive temper. He and Diana had a massive fight about it, followed by a month of the silent treatment. In the end, as always, it was Frank who caved. The poor guy only had eyes for her. But now, this massive, 3-story luxury mansion was all mine. Diana hadn't left much behind, but after everything was cleared out, the place felt a little empty. So, naturally, I went on a shopping spree. I hit my favorite boutiques on Madison Avenue. I'll take this, and this. Not that one. Bag up the rest for me. Right away, Mr. Miller, the store manager said, her face beaming. She was happy. I was happy. Everyone was happy. I had a small army of sales associates carrying my bags. As I stepped out of the store, I ran right into Diana. She froze when she saw me, and that's when I noticed Leo Vance standing right behind her. Looks like his leg was all better if he was well enough to go shopping. Diana's lips parted, and she was the first to speak. His mother's birthday is soon. I was just helping him pick out a gift. I blinked. Oh, why was she telling me this? It's not like I cared. Still, I gave a polite nod. Before I could make my exit, Leo spoke up, an apologetic look on his face. Mr. Miller, sorry about this. My leg is still giving me some trouble, so Diana was kind enough to give me a ride. It looks like you've got your hands full there. Why don't you let Diana drive you home? I can manage on my own. Now that was a masterclass in passive aggression. He managed to remind Diana that I was the one who hurt him, imply that I shouldn't be jealous, and then magnanimously offer her to me. I just smiled. No thanks, my car's right downstairs. Besides, I wouldn't want to trouble Ms. Hayes with my personal errands. Leo froze. What? I feigned surprise and looked at Diana. Ms. Hayes, you mean you haven't told Mr. Vance that we're divorced? Dead silence. Leo stared at Diana, his face a mask of shock. Diana's jaw was tight, her expression grim. I don't like to broadcast my personal life. Was that a dig at me? So I threw a few parties to celebrate my divorce. What's the big deal? Leo seemed to be reeling from the news. He stammered. Diana, you and Mr. Miller, why didn't you tell me? Hearing his voice seemed to snap Diana out of her trance. Her lips moved, and after a slight pause, she murmured, I've just been really busy. Heh, that used to be her go-to excuse for Frank. Funny how the tables have turned. But there's a difference between the main character and a side character. For Leo, this was fantastic news. His eyes darted between me and Diana before he put on an apologetic face. I'm so sorry, I had no idea. I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject. Mr. Miller, I hope you're not upset. Of course I wasn't upset. She was nothing to me now. It's fine. You two enjoy your shopping. My sales associate is waiting, and these bags are heavy, so I'd better get going. I had just taken a step when Diana said, Wait. I turned back. Is there something else, Ms. Hayes? She frowned, clearly still not used to my new, detached attitude. My mother mentioned yesterday that you haven't visited in a while. Her voice dropped, and she seemed to struggle with the words. If you have time, you should go see her. She was talking about her mother, the one with kidney failure. Unlike Diana, her mother had always been fond of Frank. That's because Diana had never told her the truth about their marriage, that she'd been forced into it. In her mother's eyes, Frank was a wealthy young man who hadn't looked down on their family and was completely devoted to her daughter. Of course she adored him. In the early days of their marriage, Frank had made a point of visiting and helping care for her mother, all in an attempt to get on Diana's good side. He knew her mother was his last bargaining chip. Diana was a devoted daughter and wouldn't risk upsetting her. But when Frank attacked Leo, he crossed a line, and that trump card went up in smoke. I thought about it for a moment and agreed. All right, I'll go tomorrow. It wasn't the old woman's fault, after all. Diana's expression visibly relaxed. I'll pick you up in the morning then. I just smiled and dangled my car keys. No need. I'm perfectly capable of driving myself. I wouldn't want to trouble Ms. Hayes. The expressions on both Diana's and Leo's faces froze. The next morning, I drove out to the nursing home. It was a high-end facility up in Westchester County, with top-notch amenities and service, and a price tag to match. Mr. Miller, you're here. A nurse greeted me politely as I walked in. She had been hired by Diana, and knowing our strained relationship, she always kept a professional distance. Diana's mother was lying in bed. Years of kidney disease had left her frail and thin, but her time here had clearly done her some good. The nurse's eyes flickered to the container of soup I was holding, and she gave a subtle, disdainful purse of her lips. Even the nurse saw my gesture as a pathetic attempt to curry favor, knowing it would only earn Diana's disgust. Frank, Diana's mother said, her face lighting up with a warm smile when she saw me. You've been busy, haven't you? It's been a while. I sighed internally. The original Frank had only ever used this woman to get to her daughter, but she had believed his affection was genuine. It wasn't her fault. A little, I said. I brought you some soup. But she took my hand, studying my face for a moment before asking cautiously, Is it Diana? Did she upset you again? I shook my head, but she didn't look convinced. She sighed. Diana has always been stubborn, and she keeps everything bottled up inside. If she's giving you a hard time, you tell me. I'll talk to her. A wave of guilt washed over me. I had planned on telling her about the divorce, but now the words were caught in my throat. I stayed and had lunch with her, and we chatted for a while. Before I left, I hesitated, but finally managed to say, I'm going to be pretty busy for a while, so I might not be able to visit as often. I figured I'd ease her into it, then find the right time to tell her the full story. I couldn't hide it forever. Even if I wanted to, Diana would never allow it. If I kept visiting, she'd probably think I was still trying to win her back. Her mother just patted my hand and sighed. Frank, you're a good boy. What happened before? That was Diana's fault. She's never said anything to me, but I know she blames herself, that she's full of regret. She continued, She loves you so much. How could she not be devastated about losing the baby? My heart stopped. The baby. That's right. That was the incident that had completely destroyed their relationship. Frank and Diana had been expecting a child conceived through manipulative means, after Frank took advantage of her when she came home drunk from a work event. In short, the baby's conception was shady. But to Frank, it was the ultimate tool to keep Diana tied to him. When Diana found out she was pregnant, she was torn. She felt guilty about Leo, but she couldn't bring herself to give up her own child. In the end, she chose the baby. Her own childhood had been difficult, and she didn't want her child to be born into a broken home. For a while, that was the best their relationship had ever been. She took the prenatal vitamins Frank bought her. She read all the parenting books. She genuinely wanted to be a good mother, which is why, after the miscarriage, she cut him out of her life completely. The whole thing was a mess. Once Diana was pregnant, Frank sensed her attitude softening and took a mile. He became incredibly possessive, wanting her by his side constantly. Whenever she tried to get some space, he'd use the baby as an excuse, talking about parental bonding and forcing her to give in. After a while, Diana started to get fed up. The breaking point came when she had to go on a business trip, and Leo was scheduled to be on the same trip. Frank absolutely forbade it, demanding she send someone else in her place and stay home. Diana felt he was controlling, paranoid, and possessive, and they had a massive fight. "Frank, can you just be normal for once? Stop projecting your own twisted thoughts onto everyone else," she yelled, before slamming the door and storming out. That very night, Frank got the call. Diana had been so upset by their fight that she had suffered a miscarriage. As you can imagine, that was the end. Their relationship didn't just break, it shattered. If Diana had merely disliked Frank before, after the miscarriage, it turned to pure hatred. She never returned to their home, never spoke to him again. Not until the day Frank went after Leo and pushed him down the stairs. That was the final straw. Man, the original Frank really was a psycho. When he went off the rails, he took everyone down with him, including himself. I was silent for a moment before finally saying, "It's all in the past now." The original Frank Miller was gone, and so was his story. Leaving the nursing home, I felt a little down. I wasn't sure if it was for Diana's mother, or for the man whose life I now inhabited. That feeling of melancholy peaked when I realized I'd somehow lost my car keys. In a moment of desperation, I called Chloe. "Come get me. Now." Chloe was incredulous. "What? Am I your personal chauffeur now?" "At your beck and call. I'll pay you," I said flatly. Chloe went silent. The nursing home was in a remote spot, and getting a cab was nearly impossible. Chloe eventually showed up, looking resigned to her fate. By the time we got back to my place, it was dark, and a torrential downpour had started. Seeing the sheets of rain outside, I magnanimously offered Chloe the guest room for the night. I didn't expect the doorbell to ring at the crack of dawn the next morning. Seriously? Who comes calling this early? I stumbled to the door, half asleep. "Who is? Why are you here?" Standing on my doorstep was Diana. She was about to speak when footsteps echoed from the staircase. "Who is it?" Chloe called down, her voice thick with sleep and annoyance. Diana's face instantly hardened, and she bit out each word as if it were poison. "It seems I've come at an inconvenient time. My apologies for interrupting." I mentally rolled my eyes. "You think? And what's with the attitude? It's my house. You're my ex-wife. You have no right to stand here looking like you just caught me cheating, especially after everything you put me through." I turned and called up to Chloe. "It's nothing. Go back to sleep." Chloe could be a princess, but she was only here because she'd done me a favor. The least I could do was let her get some sleep. But the sight of Diana seemed to wake Chloe right up. A lazy smile spread across her face. "Oh, we have a guest. It would be rude of me to go back to bed. Frank, darling, why don't you invite her in?" I just stared at her. See, this is what happens when she doesn't get her beauty sleep. She gets theatrical. I ignored her and turned back to Diana, with no intention of letting her in. I'd just had the place cleared of all her things. I wasn't about to let her taint it again. "It's early, Miss Hayes. Was there something you needed?" I asked. Diana's face had a pale, strained look. Chloe's little performance had clearly gotten under her skin, but there was nothing she could do about it. In the past, she could have played the lady of the house and thrown Chloe out. But now, she couldn't even get through the front door. Still, Diana had a lot of self-control. She took a deep breath, ignoring Chloe completely, and pulled a key from her pocket, holding it out to me. "You left this at my mother's yesterday. She insisted I bring it to you." The implication was clear. She was only here because her mother made her come. "Oh, thanks," I said, taking the key. "You really didn't have to. I have a spare." Diana was silent. I waited a few seconds, my patience wearing thin. Was there anything else, Miss Hayes? I asked, my tone making it clear I wanted her to leave. You don't get to her position in the business world without being able to read a room. She pressed her lips together. No. I shut the door in her face. When I turned around, Chloe was standing on the stairs, watching me. Aren't you going back to bed? I asked. Why are you staring at me? Chloe narrowed her eyes. Her arms crossed over her chest. Nothing. It's just, you're kind of ruthless to your ex-wife. You know that. I was speechless. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Chloe just tilted her chin up. Frank Miller, don't tell me you can't see what she's doing. I shot back. And what is she doing? Chloe leaned back against the railing, her voice lazy. She wanted an excuse to see you, didn't she? Otherwise, she never would have driven all the way out here at the crack of dawn just to return a key. And she certainly wouldn't have looked so furious to see me here. I tilted my head. So, Chloe tapped a finger against the banister. And you don't feel anything about that? Feel what? Just because she shows a little interest, I'm supposed to come running back? The thought was laughable. Oh, I feel something, all right. Chloe's eyes flickered towards me, and I could see her tense up slightly. I shrugged. I feel like I should have divorced her sooner. If I'd known who she really was, I would have given up on her years ago. What a waste of time. Chloe seemed surprised by my answer. She studied me for a moment, then a slow smile spread across her face. Well, Frank Miller, it's about time you grew a spine. I felt a surge of pride and shot back a compliment. I learned from the best. She was the true master of playing the field without getting attached. How many times do I have to tell you? Chloe said, rolling her eyes. I'm not actually with any of those guys. I nodded sagely. I know. You're just having fun until you meet the one. Isn't that how it always goes in the stories? The wild heiress eventually meets her one true love and settles down. Chloe just gave me a look of utter exasperation, muttered, I knew it was pointless talking to you, and went back to her room. I slept until the afternoon, woken only by a rumbling stomach. When I checked my phone, it was flooded with missed calls and iMessages from Frank's parents. It didn't take long to figure out why they were calling. They knew about the divorce. You divorced Diana? What in the world were you thinking? I've told you 100 times. Diana's company is on the rise. The Miller Corporation is in the middle of negotiating a partnership with her. How could you do this to us? You're a grown man. Stop being so impulsive. You can't just get divorced on a whim. Have you thought about anyone but yourself? You're so selfish. I have no son. It was the same old lecture, on repeat. I scrolled through a few more messages before giving up and heading downstairs for food. That smells amazing. I stopped dead, staring at the feast laid out on the dining table, where Chloe was leisurely eating. Chloe Vanderbilt, have you no shame? You started without me. Chloe barely glanced up. Was I supposed to starve waiting for you? I had no response to that. Fair point. I grabbed a fork and helped myself to a generous portion of the sweet and sour pork. I had to hand it to her. Chloe knew her food. Even her takeout was from some exclusive private kitchen and was better than anything I could order. By the way, she said, interrupting my meal, your parents called me. They said they've been trying to reach you. I grabbed another piece of braised rib. I know. Chloe paused, her fork halfway to her mouth, her eyes flicking to my phone. Should I give you some privacy? I shook my head. No need. They can yell all they want. What's done is done. As if on cue, my phone rang again. I answered it. Before I could even say hello, my mother's voice exploded from the speaker. Frank Miller, you will go to Diana this instant and tell her you made a mistake. Tell her it was an impulse and beg her to take you back. I held the phone away from my ear, wincing at her shrill tone. Get back together with her? They had to be kidding. I knew which was worse, getting an earful from my parents or ending up dead at the hands of the novel's heroine. Frank, are you even listening to me? I finally managed to get a word in. I'm listening, but that's not going to happen. I can't do it. That only made her angrier. Frank Miller, is that any way to speak to your mother? I replied innocently. But didn't you just say you don't have a son? Have you forgotten already? There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. She sounded like she was about to start yelling again, but I'd had enough. Look, I've made my position clear. I'm busy. We can talk some other time. Then I hung up and blocked her number. Chloe, who had witnessed the entire exchange, just stared at me. She put down her fork and looked me up and down, a look of genuine surprise on her face. Wow, Frank, first the ex-wife, now you're standing up to your parents? Who are you? I mumbled around a mouthful of food. Where there is oppression, there is resistance. Chloe let out a short laugh, leaning forward and resting her chin on her hand, a playful smirk on her lips. So, does that mean I should be worried? I gave her a thumbs up for her self-awareness. I wasn't surprised by her reaction. She'd grown up with the original Frank. She knew what he was like. From her perspective, my recent behavior could only be explained one way. I'd completely lost my mind. But then again, who wouldn't go a little crazy in this situation? I was a side character with no plot armor. My only hope for survival was to get out of the way. Hey, can you help me find a new house? I asked. This place is great, but I'm tired of the unannounced visitors. It's annoying. It wasn't just Diana. It was the whole Miller clan. They were all drama magnets. After today, I'd officially burned that bridge, and I wouldn't put it past them to show up here. I had zero interest in dealing with that. Chloe got it immediately. All right, leave it to me. She might have been a trust fund kid who spent most of her time partying, but when you needed something done, Chloe Vanderbilt was surprisingly reliable. The very next day, she called. She'd found a mansion for me out on Long Island. The owner moved to Europe and needs to sell fast, she explained. It's newly renovated, never been lived in. It's a total steal. I was impressed with her efficiency. That same day, I had her drag me out to meet the owner, sign the papers, and get the deed transferred. The moment it was done, I listed the old mansion for sale. I hired a moving company, and soon the house was swarming with movers. I watched, speechless, as they brought box after box downstairs. I had no idea the original Frank owned so much crap. I was definitely going to have to give these guys a big tip. Mr. Miller, what's in this box? It's heavy, one of the movers called out, carrying a large, sealed cardboard box down from the third floor. There was no way to tell what was inside. I was about to go check it out when my phone rang. Hello, is this Mr. Miller? This is Mount Sinai Hospital. Your wife collapsed on the street and was brought in. Can you come to the hospital right away? I froze. Diana had collapsed? You must have the wrong person, I said. I'm not her husband. The nurse on the other end sounded confused. But the contact on her phone is labeled. Oh right, I remembered. When Diana was pregnant, Frank had insisted on changing his contact in her phone to baby's Daddy Frank. She'd argued, but eventually gave in. I couldn't believe she'd never bothered to change it back. How is she? I asked. It seems to be a fainting spell caused by low blood sugar. She's not in any danger, but she's not in great shape either. We really think you should. I get it, I interrupted. But I'm in the middle of something. Why don't you call her current boyfriend? His name is Leo Vance. His number should be in her contacts. From now on, you should direct all calls to him. I hung up and turned to see that the living room was now overflowing with boxes. This was going to take forever. Just get everything to the new place. I told the movers. I'll sort through it later. The new house was massive, so I had the housekeeper start unpacking while I unwound with a few hours of video games. Later, I checked out a new, trendy Korean barbecue place. The food was great, and the decor was even better. I couldn't resist snapping a few pictures and posting them on Facebook. Checking in. Another day, another gain. I captioned it, throwing in a handsome selfie for good measure. The likes started rolling in. Even Chloe, who rarely bothered with Facebook, left a comment. That place is good. I replied, you've been. Her response came back instantly. Of course. I own it. I was speechless. Of course she did. But the last thing I expected was a comment from Leo Vance himself. It was dripping with that condescending, passive-aggressive tone of his. Frank, I know you and Diana are divorced, but she's in the hospital right now. Is it really appropriate for you not to even visit? I just stared at the screen. What was wrong with this guy? His comment immediately set my Facebook feed on fire. Only a handful of people knew about the divorce, and I hadn't even gotten around to a public announcement. But here was Leo, already painting me as the villain from his moral high horse. So, I decided to fight fire with fire. A good ex is supposed to disappear, I commented back. I was just trying to be respectful and not give you the wrong idea. But if you don't mind, of course I'll go. We were all classmates at Columbia, after all. A friendly visit is the least I can do, right? My Facebook notifications went into a frenzy. A few minutes later, Leo deleted his comment. Oh, so he thought he could just make it disappear? I immediately made a new post. Hey Facebook, seeking advice. What's an appropriate gift to bring when visiting one's ex-wife and her new boyfriend in the hospital? This is very important. Please help. An hour later, I showed up at the hospital, fruit basket in hand. As I approached her room, I could hear Leo's voice, dripping with faux concern. Diana, please don't be upset. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I was just worried about you. Diana didn't answer. Leo continued, his voice a mix of indignation and self-pity. You collapsed. The hospital called him, and he couldn't even be bothered to show up. What if something had happened to you today? He made it sound like I'd committed a mortal sin. Diana's tired voice finally cut him off. I'm tired, Leo. I just want to be alone. A moment later, I heard a chair scrape against the floor, and the door opened. Leo saw me and froze, his mouth hanging open in shock. Sensing the shift in the room, Diana turned her head. Her face was pale and stripped of her usual powerful CcWei aura. Lying in the hospital bed with an IV in her arm, she looked surprisingly fragile. When she saw me, a flicker of something, maybe surprise or nervousness, sparked in her dull eyes. "Frank, what are you doing here?" she asked. I brushed past the still frozen Leo and walked into the room. Well, I couldn't have people gossiping, saying I abandoned my ex-wife on her deathbed the second the divorce was final, I said breezily. We were classmates, after all. No need for bad blood, right? Diana's face went white, her lips pressing into a thin, hard line. She had definitely seen the drama on Facebook. A woman as proud as Diana would never tolerate being the subject of public ridicule. It was a humiliation. I was sure her hatred for me had just leveled up. The thought was irritating. Well, I've made my appearance. If that's all, I'll be on my way. Diana's mouth twitched into a frown. Frank, do you really have to be this way? I raised an eyebrow, my voice laced with mock sincerity. What way? You waited 3 days to visit me after my car crash. Compared to that, I'd say I'm being more than generous. When it came to being cold-hearted, she was the undisputed champion. The color drained from Diana's face. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but just then, my phone rang. It was my housekeeper. Mr. Miller, I've unpacked most of your things, but there's one last box I haven't touched. It's full of pottery. What would you like me to do with it? I paused. Pottery? Yes, sir. It looks like you might have made it yourself, so I wanted to ask before doing anything. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Diana's stunned expression, and it all came flooding back. Oh right, the original Frank had made those himself. Back in college, Diana had a part-time job at one of those paint-your-own pottery places. To get close to her, Frank started showing up all the time, spending entire afternoons there. He had zero artistic talent and even less patience. His only goal was to watch Diana. He'd always leave covered in clay, clutching some hideously misshapen masterpiece. He seemed to enjoy it, completely oblivious to how ridiculous he looked. Finally, Diana couldn't take it anymore and tried to give him some pointers. Frank immediately seized the opportunity. You'll have to give me a private lesson then. Of course, Diana didn't want to, but Frank was the studio's best customer, spending a fortune every time he came in. She couldn't afford to offend him. He only stopped coming after she quit. That box was the result of his long, painful courtship. It's nothing important, I said into the phone, my voice casual. Just throw it all out. Wait, Diana said suddenly. You moved. I had to give it to her. The woman was sharp. I just nodded. I did. Diana frowned. Where to? Why so suddenly? I couldn't help but laugh. Ms. Hayes, how many times do I have to remind you? We're divorced. What I do and where I live is none of your business. Diana looked stricken, as if I'd said something unbearable, and her eyes began to well up. After a long moment, she finally relented, her voice barely a whisper. The pottery. If you don't want it, I'll have someone pick it up. I gave her a strange look. They're my things. I'll keep them or throw them away as I see fit. I don't know why, but that sentence seemed to extinguish the last flicker of light in her eyes, like a fragile flame snuffed out by the wind. Leo rushed to her side, full of concern. Diana, are you okay? Diana turned her head slightly, avoiding his touch. Leo froze, his hand hovering awkwardly in the air. I had no interest in their little drama and turned to leave. But as I stepped out of the room, a doctor stopped me. Oh, I looked up to see a woman in her 40s, a physician, looking at me with recognition. What brings you here? Are you not feeling well? She asked. I was confused for a second, then I saw the title on her ID badge, Head of Obstetrics. A sudden, cold suspicion bloomed in my mind. The only reason Frank Miller would have ever crossed paths with the head of obstetrics was the baby. Thank you for your concern, doctor, but I'm fine, I said evasively. I'm just here visiting a friend. She seemed relieved. Oh, that's good to hear. Still, you and your wife are at the right age. Next time you conceive, you really shouldn't get rid of it. I froze. The amount of information packed into that one sentence was staggering. Get rid of it. Wasn't it an accidental miscarriage? What was this doctor talking about? Then it hit me. That night, when Frank had rushed to the hospital, Diana was already out of surgery, with Leo sitting right by her bed. Diana, what are you doing? As my mind reeled, I heard Leo's panic shout from behind me. I spun around to see Diana ripping the IV from her own arm, shoving Leo aside, and rushing towards me. She planted herself between me and the doctor, her voice stretched taut with a tension I'd never heard before. Doctor, this is a private matter between my husband and me. It has nothing to do with you. A chill went down my spine. I slowly, stiffly, turned my head to look at Diana, and for the first time, her beautiful face looked like a stranger's. Diana, what does she mean? The doctor's brow furrowed in confusion. You don't know? She asked me. Your wife said you were both focused on your careers and decided you didn't want a child right now. She chose to have an induced abortion. You're telling me you had no idea? I don't remember the drive home. My entire world had been shattered by that one revelation. I sat in the study for a long time, my eyes closed, trying to process it. How could this be? The novel said Frank's jealousy and their huge fight caused an accidental miscarriage. How could it be an abortion? For some reason, as I thought about it, a phantom ache spread through my body, a pain that wasn't my own. It was as if I could feel his pain, the original Frank's utter despair and agony at losing his child. The feeling was deeply unsettling. I shook my head, trying to clear the foreign emotions away. The housekeeper had just finished organizing the study. I started rummaging through boxes until I found one labeled college. At the very bottom was an old photo album. The story of the miscarriage was a lie. What else had the novel gotten wrong? I opened the first page. It was a photo from freshman orientation week. A young man in a simple t-shirt was grinning at the camera, the sun bright in his eyes. On the stage far behind him, a slender, graceful figure stood at the podium. Even from a distance, it was unmistakably a young Diana. Underneath, in small, neat handwriting, it read, "A girl passed out from the heat next to me on the first day. I carried her to the nurse's office. She was so light. Didn't expect to see her on stage today, giving the freshman welcome speech. Her name is Diana Hayes. Taking a sneaky photo of your crush while pretending to take a selfie. A classic move. This must have been right when he first fell for her." I almost laughed. So, Frank Miller's great, tragic love story started with a simple, cliché case of love at first sight. I touched my own face. The Frank Miller from the novel was selfish, paranoid, and cruel. He seemed like a completely different person from the boy in this photo with the bright, open smile. It was hard to imagine the kid with stars in his eyes turning into that suspicious, possessive monster. I kept turning the pages. Every single photo was of Diana. Diana in a crowded lecture hall at Columbia. Diana on the badminton court, her long hair flying as she swung her racket. Diana eating by herself in the dining hall. Diana, head bent in concentration, working at the pottery studio. Next to some of the photos were short, handwritten notes. Her classes are so boring. Ugh, I don't get any of it. How can one person be so smart and so good at sports? She always eats alone, and she always gets the cheapest meal. I wonder if she's getting enough to eat. She seems so busy all the time. She never has a second to even talk to me. This wasn't just a photo album. It was a chronicle of Frank's secret, unrequited love for Diana. For years of college, documented in countless photos of her. Every image, every word, painted a picture of a man completely different from the villain in the novel. I think she likes someone, but it's not me. What do I do? Maybe I should just give up. Graduation is tomorrow. Maybe I should just tell her how I feel, and then say goodbye to this crush for good. She left right in the middle of the class photo. I followed her. Her mom's condition got worse. They need a lot of money. What is she going to do? The page where his graduation photo should have been was empty. Because of Diana, Frank had missed his own graduation picture. My hands started to tremble. For some reason, the album suddenly felt impossibly heavy, and I struggled to turn the next page. It felt like if I kept going, something irreversible would happen. A heavy weight settled on my chest, making it hard to breathe, but some unseen force compelled me to turn the page. It was a wedding photo. No, to be precise, it was a license photo. The one from their marriage certificate. Frank was still smiling, but it was a more subdued, restrained smile than in his college pictures. The corners of his mouth were turned up slightly, and he was leaning just a little towards Diana. Diana, however, looked completely placid, her calm expression clashing with the bright, celebratory background. I suddenly remembered, they never had any professional wedding photos. After a year of agonizing, Diana had finally agreed to marry him. She wasn't marrying the man she loved, so she had no interest in the fanfare. With her mother still in the hospital, they skipped the ceremony and the photos, simply signing the papers at City Hall. I expected this page, the one marking the day he finally married Diana, to be filled with words. But it was completely blank. I stared at the photo for a long time, a strange tightness in my chest. 5 years of crushing on her, 5 years of marriage, and this was their only photo together. I pushed down the rising tide of emotion and kept turning the pages. There were no more pictures of Diana. Just a few scattered, lonely sentences. She seems so busy lately. The company is just starting up, and she has to handle everything herself. It must be exhausting. I made her favorite sweet and sour pork, but she came home late from a work dinner, smelling of wine, and fell right asleep. She bought a condo near her office. She said it was for convenience. But why was he there too? I know I'll never mean as much to her as he does, but I still want us to have a child together. Am I a lost cause? I went to the nursing home again today, ran into Chloe, who was there picking up her grandfather. She told me I was an idiot, that my tactics would never work on a woman like Diana. I just walked away, because I knew she was right. I was ready to give up, but she came home that night, so drunk. I don't know, maybe a work dinner went badly. I couldn't stop myself from kissing her. And for the first time, she kissed me back. The next few pages were blank, until, on a new page, a single, hesitant question. I think she's pregnant? I kept reading. The next 2 months were, indeed, the best their relationship had ever been. Even though he knew her change of heart was only because of the baby, he didn't care. He had been hopelessly in love with her for years. He had once believed she was the light of his life. He wanted warmth and affection from her, but their entire foundation was wrong. The beautiful illusion was finally, brutally shattered. On the last page of the album was a consent form for an induced abortion, torn to pieces and then taped back together. In the bottom right corner, clear as day, was Diana's signature. It was like being struck by lightning. A sharp, piercing pain shot through me, and my entire body went numb, my limbs turning to ice. A flood of memories, not my own, crashed through my mind, a violent torrent threatening to drown me. I felt like a drowning man, fighting for a single breath of air only to be pulled under by a larger wave. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And then, I remembered. I hadn't traveled into a book. I am Frank Miller. The sudden ringing of my phone was jarring in the silent study. I snapped back to reality. It was Chloe. I answered, and before I could say a word, she cut right to the chase. You went to the hospital to see Diana today, didn't you? She was supposed to be on a flight to Chicago for a business trip. How could she know? I'd posted on Facebook, sure, but she seemed to know exactly when I'd gone. I did, I admitted. How did you know? There was a pause on her end. Diana called me. She was asking about you. Oh, I see, I said, my voice flat. I didn't press for details. Sensing something was wrong from my tone, Chloe changed the subject, her voice softening. It's late. You're still up? Just as I was about to answer, the doorbell rang. It was Diana. I told Chloe I'd call her back, went downstairs, and opened the door, but I didn't let her inside. It was completely dark outside. The streetlight behind her cast her face in shifting patterns of light and shadow. What do you want? I asked. Her lips were pale. I came to apologize. It had been 3 hours since I left the hospital. It took her this long to come up with an apology? Don't bother, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. It's in the past. It was too late. I didn't need her apology anymore. Diana's face grew even paler. Frank, please let me explain. I can explain. I was just being impulsive that day. Was it impulsive? I interrupted, my voice quiet but sharp. Or was it premeditated? It must have been agony for you, being pregnant with my child. Diana froze. After a long moment, she closed her eyes, forcing the words out. At first, I really didn't want the baby. But then, as it grew, I was just confused. I regretted it. I really did. A little late for regrets, don't you think? Her shoulders trembled with unshed tears, but she couldn't speak. A small, bitter smile touched my lips. You let me believe it was my fault, that I caused the miscarriage. You knew I'd be consumed by guilt, that I'd never be able to hold the baby over your head again. You knew it would set you free. That was the plan, wasn't it? Diana stared at me, stunned into silence. In her mind, I was nothing more than a selfish, possessive monster. She believed that without a child to use as leverage, I would have no way to control her, no reason to keep her tied to me. She opened her mouth, the words seeming to cause her physical pain. But that was between us. Why? Why did you attack Leo that day? I just looked at her, my expression unreadable. This was the woman I had loved for 10 years. And even now, in this moment, her first thought was of another man. I laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. No reason. I just don't like him. He had it coming. But hey, the baby's gone. We're divorced. You're finally free to be with him, Diana. You should be happy. No, Diana cried out, as if stung. She lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. I don't love him. I never loved him. Frank, please, don't talk to me like this. We can. I frowned, about to shake her off, when a soft, amused laugh came from behind me. Well, Looks like I'm interrupting something. Diana froze. I turned to see Chloe standing there, the one who was supposed to be in another city. She casually tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her eyes glinting with cold amusement. Diana, didn't I tell you? You're the one who wanted the divorce. So stop bothering him. Diana bit her lip, her eyes flashing with hostility. Since when are my and Frank's affairs any of your business? Chloe's eyebrow arched. She sauntered over in her stilettos, stopped beside me, and looped her arm through mine. My heart skipped a beat. Chloe, I hissed. She just tilted her head, giving me a look that was somehow both innocent and seductive. What? Thinking of going back for seconds. My head was spinning. I shook it. No, not happening. But why are you back so soon? She lifted her chin defiantly. What? Was I supposed to stay away and let her harass you? Diana's eyes were fixed on Chloe's hand on my arm, her own eyes turning red. Chloe Vanderbilt, don't you dare act so noble. We both know what you really want. Chloe just laughed. She turned back to Diana, her smile dazzling. Oh, since you're so perceptive, CEO Hayes, please, enlighten us. What is it that I want? Diana said nothing, her lips pressed into a thin, white line. Chloe scoffed. Cat got your tongue, CEO Hayes? Fine, I'll say it for you. I've been waiting for you two to divorce so I could finally make my move. An opportunity like this doesn't come along every day. I have to seize it. Her words, carried on the night air, seemed to echo in my ears, a silent drumbeat in my chest. Chloe wasn't finished. And you, Diana, if you had a single shred of decency, a single ounce of self-awareness, you would never have said what you just did. Did you really think he would just forgive you forever? That he'd keep giving you chances? The color drained from Diana's face, and she swayed on her feet, looking like she might collapse. She mumbled, her voice cracking. I really didn't mean to. Chloe cut her off, her voice turning cold. I told you, he's finally starting to move on, to build a new life for himself. Do you have to drag him back through all of it again? My head snapped toward Chloe. What she said, it sounded strange. Had she figured something out? But Chloe didn't seem to notice my reaction. She just looked at Diana and said flatly, you should go, and don't come back. Diana stumbled back, her eyes unfocused and lost. I couldn't watch anymore. That's enough, I said to her. You asked your questions, and I gave you your answers. As of today, you and I are done. We have nothing to do with each other. I turned to go inside. A soft thud came from behind me. I turned back to see Diana, kneeling on the cold pavement. Frank, she whispered, her voice trembling uncontrollably. I know I was wrong. It was all my fault. Please, just give me one more chance. Let's start over. Please. Chloe's first reaction was to look at me. All her usual bravado was gone, replaced by a raw vulnerability in her wide, bright eyes. Her hands, hanging at her sides, clenched into fists, her face tight with anxiety. She was terrified. Diana was waiting for my answer. And so was Chloe. I turned back to Diana, my voice calm. Diana, 4 or 5 years of our marriage, I wasn't charming like Leo. I was just a source of trouble, a possessive, immature burden. That's how you saw me, isn't it? Diana's face went white. I continued, my voice soft. You believe the marriage itself was something I forced on you. That if it weren't for your mother, you never would have been with me, never would have gotten tangled up in my life. That's what you thought of our marriage. In fact, that's exactly what you told me, right before the accident. Diana's expression was a mixture of regret and panic. I was just angry that day. I said those things in the heat of the moment. I didn't mean. It was those words that had made me finally understand the ridiculous, hateful, pathetic image she had of me. After losing the baby, I was heartbroken. I started to wonder if I should just let her go. A man like me didn't deserve her. So when Leo asked to meet, I agreed. I wanted to finally confront the man who had been a ghost in my marriage from the very beginning. But I never got the chance to ask my questions. Because that's when Leo showed me the consent form. Frank, you didn't really think a baby would be enough to win Diana's heart, did you? I was right there when you called her, you know. I even told her she should listen to you. Stay home from the trip. But you know what she said? She said you were just using the baby to trap her, and she was sick of it. You've been obsessed with her since freshman year, haven't you? Oh, right. Because she fainted during orientation and you carried her to the nurse's office? It's nice to help people, but you can't expect a girl to devote her life to you over one little thing, can you? Frank, stop being a fool. You're suffocating her. She's sick of it. She was even disgusted by the idea of carrying your child. I never expected Leo to throw himself down the stairs. And I never expected Diana to walk in at that exact moment. She didn't even listen to my explanation, just rushed to his side, crying, frantic with worry. She never once looked at me. When I finally got a chance to see her, I wanted to confront her about the baby, but she cut me off before I could even start. Frank, when are you going to stop? Do you have any idea how much you disgust me? I wandered the streets for hours that day, her words echoing in my head. Am I selfish? Am I extreme? Am I a monster? Until the car came out of nowhere. I lost consciousness on impact. When I woke up, I was a different person. I was the person Diana had always seen me as. My mind had built a prison for itself, a world where I was the villain she always said I was. Crazy, selfish, paranoid, absurd. And in that world, most importantly, my love for her was gone. I looked into Diana's eyes, my voice steady. But Diana, in this world I created, I don't love you anymore. My love was the only thing that ever made you shine, and you were never worthy of it. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already streaming through the windows. The smell of bacon led me to the kitchen, where I found Chloe at the stove. I stopped in my tracks, stunned. Miss Vanderbilt, to what do I owe the honor? Chloe just tilted her chin towards the front gate. It's the day we finally got rid of the trash. I was speechless. Diana had knelt outside all night. I'd ignored her, dragging a still fuming Chloe back inside, closing the door on the drama. We went to our separate rooms, of course. I sat down at the table and took a bite of the French toast she'd made. And, I added, it's also the day the great Chloe Vanderbilt failed at cooking. She immediately rushed over, trying to snatch the toast away from me. Is it burnt? Don't eat it. I'll make you another one. I dodged out of her reach. Don't be silly, it's a waste. It's not that bad. Chloe looked at me doubtfully. Really? I held the piece of toast up to her mouth. Try it. As she leaned in to take a bite, I leaned in further and kissed the corner of her lips. She froze, a blush creeping up her neck and coloring her ears. Frank Miller, she sputtered. I grinned, pinching her cheek playfully. I hear you. No need to shout. You're even louder than you were with your confession last night. Chloe was silent for a long moment. Then she threw her arms around me, burying her face in my chest. Her voice was muffled when she spoke. I thought you'd forgotten everything. Right after the accident, you couldn't remember so much. I was afraid I'd be stuck taking care of an amnesiac for the rest of my life. I stroked her hair. How could I? Even when I forgot who I was, I never forgot you. Even in that dark, confusing time when I didn't recognize myself, she was the one person I instinctively trusted. She looked up at me, a satisfied smile on her face. Finally, you're not an idiot, she added. My years of pining weren't a complete waste then. I laughed along with her. Yeah, you're the greatest. Diana's POV, I kept running into this guy. He was in my classes, at the gym, even at my part-time job. He tried to make it look like a coincidence, but he was a terrible actor. You could read everything on his face. It was annoying. It wasn't the first time a guy had been interested in me, but no one had ever been so obvious about it. I figured he'd get bored and give up, but he was surprisingly persistent. I started spending more time with Leo, hoping he'd get the hint. I saw the hurt in his eyes, and then, just as I'd hoped, he disappeared. I was relieved, but a part of me just thought it proved he was flighty, that he gave up on everything easily. He's a rich kid, after all, Leo had said. He's never had to struggle. He's not like us. Remembering his words just made me more irritated. I even found an excuse to turn Leo down when he hinted we should be more than friends. I didn't have the time or energy for a relationship. I had my parents to take care of, a family to support. Thankfully, Leo was always understanding. He knew my situation and never pushed, just continued to be a good friend. But then my mother's condition took a turn for the worse. We needed an impossible amount of money for her treatment. Just when I thought all hope was lost, he showed up again. What do you want? I asked him, my voice flat. He just shook his head. I laughed coldly to myself. I wasn't sure if I was laughing at him or at my own pathetic situation. Then let's get married, I heard myself say. I knew what he wanted. It was infuriating that he was still playing innocent, but I had no choice. I needed the money, so I sold myself. His relationship with his family was strained, so he was always clinging to me. But I was busy building my company. I didn't have time for him. He started bothering me less, and I thought he was finally growing up. Then I found out he'd been harassing Leo. I confronted him about it multiple times, but he always denied it, and we would just end up fighting. He finally backed off, and I was relieved. But then I saw him at my mother's nursing home, talking with another woman. It was Chloe Vanderbilt. I knew who she was. His childhood friend, from the same world. They would have been the perfect couple, if it weren't for me. I'm a woman. I knew exactly what that look in her eyes meant. He could joke with her, complain to her, bicker with her. He was never like that with me. How could he? He claimed to love me, but he was so comfortable, so himself, with her. He thought I was drunk that night. I wasn't. A wave of possessiveness I didn't know I had washed over me. When I found out I was pregnant, I was, for some reason, relieved. A baby meant I had to stay with him, didn't it? I don't know what possessed me to go to that clinic. I think I thought I was punishing him, but I was wrong. I was punishing myself, and the pain was 1,000 times worse than I could have imagined. Everything started to unravel, to spin out of my control. I don't know why I said those horrible things to him. I must have been insane. The moment he signed those papers, I realized it. I was the one who was truly insane. How could I have let him go? I couldn't let him leave me. But by the time I realized my mistake, it was already too late. I fired Leo. I leaked the information about the kickbacks he'd been taking, the company's secrets he'd sold. He was blacklisted from the industry. He begged outside my office for days before finally leaving New York in disgrace. I could never bring myself to change his name in my phone. One night, drunk and lonely, I called the number. It was disconnected. Much later, I heard the news. He and CcWei Vanderbilt had a huge, beautiful wedding. I finally understood. I had lost him, completely and forever. It started to rain outside, a cold, damp chill that seemed to seep into my very bones. It was my fault. It was all my fault. I'm the one who lost him. And in doing so, I lost myself. I'm so sorry. If there is a next time, I hope you never have to meet me. Frank's POV. I saw Diana again 3 years later. My mother is dying, she said. She wants to see you. I stared at the gaunt, exhausted woman in front of me, barely recognizing the powerful, beautiful soul she once was. In just 3 short years, she looked like she had aged a decade. I heard she'd had to go through half our old alumni network from Columbia just to track me down. There was nothing left between us, but I thought of her mother, that kind, frail woman. I finally nodded. Fine, but I have to be somewhere later, so I can't stay long. A flicker of light returned to Diana's dull eyes, as if she couldn't believe I'd agreed so easily. She seemed completely flustered. That's fine. Thank you for being willing to go. Her face was a mask of anxiety and awkwardness I'd never seen on her before. I'm just so grateful, she whispered. I made a quick call home, then followed Diana. To my surprise, we didn't go to the expensive nursing home in Westchester. Instead, she pulled up in front of a rundown tenement building in a rough part of Queens. Oh right, I'd heard the rumors. She and Leo had a nasty falling out a few years back. He'd gone to work for her biggest competitor out of spite and systematically destroyed her company. She'd gone bankrupt, deep in debt, and had apparently been hitting up old classmates for loans. So this is where she'd ended up, unable to afford the nursing home, barely able to afford rent in a place like this. She paused at the apartment door, her hand hovering over the knob. She took a deep breath before finally pushing it open. Her mother was lying on a hospital bed in the small living room, looking withered and frail, her breathing shallow. Mom, Diana said softly. The old woman's eyes fluttered open, looked at her daughter, and then slowly turned her head away, closing them again. Diana walked to the bedside. Mom, she whispered, Frank is here to see you. Her mother stiffened, her head turning back with a trembling motion. Mrs. Hayes, I said gently. The old woman's eyes immediately filled with tears, which rolled down her cheeks and onto her skeletal hands. Diana moved to wipe them away, but her mother pushed her hand away forcefully. Get out, she rasped. I have no daughter. Caught off balance, Diana stumbled and fell to the floor, tears finally spilling from her eyes. I stood there awkwardly, unsure of what to do. Mrs. Hayes, please, don't upset yourself. Her mother only cried harder, her voice a choked, hoarse whisper. I know everything now. Frank, it was Diana who failed you. Our family failed you. I was silent for a moment, then just shook my head. It's all in the past, I said. We've all moved on with our lives. We have to look forward, right? Her body trembled as she sobbed, her face turned away from me. Frank, you're a good boy. You shouldn't come here again. Diana, her eyes red and swollen, offered to walk me out. Don't worry about it. Just take care of your mother, I said, glancing at my phone. She gave a bitter smile. She hasn't spoken a kind word to me since she found out about the divorce. Just looking at me makes her angry. I had no patience for this and no interest in hearing more. I pulled out my keys, ready to leave. Diana hesitated, then spoke up. Frank, are you in a hurry? Maybe we could get some coffee. I nodded. Yeah, I am. I have to pick up Bella from school. If I was late, CcWei would have my head. Diana looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. She swayed, her face turning sheet white. What? She stammered. Oh, right. I forgot to mention, I said with a small smile. Bella, she's my daughter. You've never met her. She has her mother's eyes, but she got my nose and mouth. She's a beautiful kid. Diana couldn't form another word. She sank onto the shabby sofa and slowly covered her face, a single, choked sob escaping her lips. I turned and walked away. As the door clicked shut behind me, I heard her finally break down, her cries of anguish echoing in the hallway. I didn't look back. I walked away and drove to the preschool. Daddy, a small, sweet-smelling whirlwind launched herself into my arms. I lifted her up, bouncing her in my arms. Let's go? Mommy's making something special for dinner tonight. My little girl immediately wrinkled her nose. But Daddy, she said with a perfect pout, I want you to cook. I booped her on the nose. You got it. The hole that had been in my heart for so long was finally full. The past was just that, the past. A puff of smoke, long since faded away.